I'm going to call to order the February 11th, 2014 meeting of the Wythe County Board of Supervisors to order. Our invocation tonight will be from Father Tarpley from St. John's Episcopal Church. Would everybody please stand and remain standing after the invocation for the pledge.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, God of us all, we thank you for our country of these United States. We thank you for the liberties and the opportunities of our democracy. We thank you for the leaders of our country, such as our founding father, George Washington. May your Spirit guide the wisdom of the Wythe County Board of Supervisors, that they may speak, decide, and take actions for the general welfare and the common good of the people of our Wythe County, Virginia. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, I'd like to welcome everyone here. First order of business on the agenda is citizens' time. We have a letter from Miss Linda Myers. Would you like to read it, Mr. Breyer?
Letter from Ms. Linda Myers dated February 11, 2014, Wythe County Board of Supervisors. Dear Board of Supervisors, please include the following in tonight's meeting in citizens' time. You are all aware that many ideals and values or lack of are seeping into our lives. Our culture and history are being assaulted, twisted, and corrupted. I'm asking you on behalf of the majority of the citizens in Wythe County to script and enact orders, laws, or whatever necessary on the following. Restroom services denoted assigned by anatomy only. English, and number 2, English will be the official language of Wythe County. I would also appreciate the agenda containing the consent calendar items listed separately in the future, as most taxpayers do not have access to that information. Reserving all unalienable rights. Thank you, Linda Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Breyer. Does anyone else would like to speak in front of the board? Citizens' time. Hearing none, we'll close citizens' time. Next item on the agenda is minutes from the previous meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept it.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. Does any board member have any corrections, changes, or additions to make to the minutes? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Horny?
Aye.
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 The chair votes aye, and one passes 6 with 1 absent. Next order on the agenda is the payment of invoices.
I'll make a motion that we pay the invoices as presented.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Is any invoice, anyone like to speak about any invoice? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Hausman?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And I vote aye. Passes 6, 1 absent. Next order of business is old business. Mr. Dalton, would you like to speak on this, please?
We have scheduled the initial kickoff meeting at the Weldon Cooper Center for the Ag Expo for next Thursday, the 20th, at 7 o'clock. We invite everybody to come. At that meeting, we hope to everybody that's interested to serve on different kind of committees to assist with that. And one of the most important meetings to sort of dictate what's in this impact and get everybody's opinion and thoughts on the proposed center.
Okay, Mr. Dalton, and that will be next. We've been also we've got in touch with the, I guess, Expo committee, the board, and have they got back with you? And going to invite several people from the county to this meeting. Next order of business on the.
Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, under old business, I'd like to bring up one thing, if I may. I want to follow through with something that I had told Lead Mines Rescue that I would do. If they sent the names of people who were certified in extrication, that I would make the motion that we include the crash truck in the lease agreement with Lead Mines, and I'd make that motion now.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to second that motion.
And I've spoken with Mr. Alley. He has called me, and what they're asking for, in all honesty, is an opportunity to try to see if they can make it work. He said that he knows that Lead Mines have been reorganized for a finite amount of time. I mean, when we did it, it was for 6 months. And what he is asking for, right now they have 7 people, and of course I have their names right here who are certified in extrication, and they want an opportunity to make it work. And he said that if they do and they can't make it work, he said then by all means move the truck. And at the end of 6-month period, we're going to have to make a series of decisions anyway as to where emergency services are heading. So I had told them when we met with them to go over the lease agreements, that if they sent the names in, that I would make that motion, and so they have given me the names, and so I'm following through with what I told them that I would do. I know that in the Fire and Rescue Committee that there was a recommendation that fire departments do extrication, but as of right now, those have not come forward to the full board yet. So I am, as I said, I'm following through with what I told them I would do, and Mr. Alley is just basically asking for a change to make it work.
Yes.
I attended the Lead Mines Rescue meeting Sunday. I don't know how many members they had, but they had 18 there Sunday. And I believe they're going to do good.
Well, the one thing that I'm worried about is we really don't understand exactly what, can they go out there by themselves and do extrication without the fire department being there? What I would like is to have a whole lot more information before we make this decision and turn something back over to the rescue squad to just, we really don't understand what.
And to a certain extent, Mr. Chairman, I understand your thoughts on it, but we also have to remember that that the truck was actually purchased. I know it's through a grant, but for the rescue squad, not for a fire department. I asked Mr. Alley about because one of the discussions we had in the fire and rescue was about turnout gear, and he said that they have. For lack of a better term, extrication jumpsuits that have all the reflective things on them in the truck.
But what I'm saying, we heard from with County Rescue Squad at the last meeting that you cannot even cut into a car without the fire department being there. I would like to know, get in contact with the state or with somebody that has the authority and the information to know exactly what we can allow out on the interstate or allow out a crash to, before somebody does something and gets injured or injured the person that they're trying to help.
I really don't think it'll have anybody on that truck that's not qualified to perform the job.
Well, I'm not saying that, Coy. All I'm saying is I don't think we have enough information to put it back out there to work. I mean, do you know, can they go to the interstate and cut into a vehicle without the fire department being there?
I cannot answer that. I'm not sure of that. but I don't see-
That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that we don't give it back to them or we do give it back to them. I just think we need some more information about the whole situation before we do this.
Well,
I mean, I
where's the
understand you
truck?
bring it
Could
up
could
to
I
the
ask,
vote.
would you mind if I ask Mr. Dalton a question?
No,
Mr.
go
Chairman?
ahead.
Mr. Dalton, that truck, how long has Lead Mines had it? Approximately.
It's 5 years. We did investigate the grant portion of it, that they fulfilled all the grant requirements and it can be assigned to anybody that we want to. We did check with that.
So it met the criteria. Has it been used before by Lead Mines?
You know, I prefer to Mr. Davidson that goes out on those calls. I talked to Robert Wall, where Robert said that they had used it on several occasions. That's, the rest of everything I'd say is hearsay. But Robert told me they had, the guy he said had been there, but typically the fire department had been doing the extrications for all those things.
And I know how Mr. Hale feels, and I did not know Mr. Hale was not going to be here tonight. Yes, that was not why I brought it up. I made the motion. I told them as soon as they gave me the list of names that I would make the motion, and I'm just following through with what I told them.
You know, and that's another reason Mr. Hale ain't here, and he is part of the fire and rescue. And it did come out of fire and rescue. It hasn't been brought before the whole board to recommend that the fire departments be the ones in Wythe County to do extrication. So that's another problem that I have with it.
And as I understand our rules of procedure, if the vote ended in a tie, it carries over to the next meeting?
Yes.
I mean, I lost my train of thought now. If we give them the vehicle back and then then it does come to the board and the board decides that the fire departments are going to do extrication, I mean, we could always take the vehicle and put it in Barron Springs or in Speedwell, because as far as I know, that's the only two fire departments that don't have extrication equipment.
Where's the vehicle now?
I mean, right now it's just sitting, right? I mean, nobody's
Nobody's
using it, so
We
it's,
have the garage.
so I mean,
It's not getting any use right now.
right, I mean, if we at least give it back to the rescue squad, I mean, at least they can be using it until the board does make the decision whether or not the fire departments are gonna be the ones. I mean, I understand your point too, Tim. I mean, and as a firefighter, I mean, I don't know legally whether they can cut on a car without the fire department there or not.
If the fire department and the rescue squad are there, nobody gets the truck though, right? Right now.
Yeah, I mean, right now, if it was a call and Max Meadows goes, Max Meadows has got equipment. Ivanhoe goes, Ivanhoe's got equipment. If Barron Springs goes, then they're going to have no equipment.
Well, I think if it's a car crash, is the fire department not automatically dispatched? So
I think
the fire department would always be there. I mean, they're dispatched at the same time.
Fire and rescue on a vehicle crash until it's determined there's no injuries or no fuel spill, they're on the way at the same time.
And I had a call from somebody, a member of Lead Lines today, that wanted to come and give a presentation, in which I told him there wasn't nothing on the agenda to bring this up for a vote.
Well, and I understand, and I didn't, I got this phone call, what is the day? Today's Tuesday? I'm not sure exactly when I got the phone call. Now, I did not request to have it placed on the agenda because I thought I would do it under other business, because I had said that, I had said in the meeting that, as soon as I got the list of names, I would make this motion.
Yeah, that's what you told me after the last meeting, that you didn't have the names yet.
Mhm.
I don't believe Max Meadow's gonna have the personnel to do that. They may have it at a certain time, Saturday or Sunday, but during the week, no.
Well, the rescue squad will have the personnel during the week.
They'll have more than the fire department.
When they're dispatched, when out of the dispatch down here, do they pay all rescue squad members or just the ones that's on call?
Currently, we dispatch the ones at the building that's on call, whoever's on the call list.
So who's going to dispatch under the
Well, in that
extrication team?
circumstance, we'd have to get a call, and I think we talked about this in fire and rescue, that there'd have to be a call list and prepared, and who's on duty, who's not on duty. So,
Just for clarification, your motion, there are people on the lead mines that can operate the vehicle.
Yeah, I have a list of 7 names.
Do you have their certifications?
No, but I'm assuming when the captain of the rescue squad called and gave me the names that that the certification is in place. I mean, I didn't tell him that, please send a copy of the certification.
Y'all have certified here.
Speedwell's probably got eight or 10. Would be my guess. I mean, that's off the top of my head.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Horny?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes no. Motion passes with one absent, 4-1. Okay, the next order of business is new business. We have a letter from Hope Incorporated. They pay their taxes every year, and they've sent us a letter requesting a donation for what their taxes would be, and it's $2,212.76. Mr. Dalton, do you have anything else to add to this?
no, it's, they rent the property. Part of their rental lease agreement is that they're required to pay the taxes, and on an annual basis. Since they've been doing that, we've made a donation amount equal to their tax paid.
So we've historically done this?
Yes.
I have a motion.
Let me ask a question. The 221276, and then they have one from the Whitfield?
No.
Or is that everything?
Yeah, I thought that, both of them is Wythe County. They're two parcels.
All of us with county?
Yes.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
We're just paying their tax portion, not what they actually paid? We're making the donation for the 2,200, not the 2,411?
The 2,411 includes penalty and interest where
Yeah.
they paid it late.
Late.
Yes, this is just the principal amount.
Okay. That's what I thought we would do, but I wanted to make sure.
Okay. Any more discussion? We have a motion and a second on the floor to donate $2,212.76 back to Hope Incorporated. I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Hausman?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Huh?
Aye.
The chair votes aye with one absent. Motion passes 6 with one absent. Next item on the agenda is the Wall of Honor. Mr. Hall, you want to?
Yeah, the Wall of Honor Committee, we met on January 22nd. We have 3 citizens that would be up for nomination to the Civic Monument. That's James Edgar Crockett Sr., William Jones Snyder, and Ann Brown Crockett Stark. So this is from that committee, which I represent the county, to adopt these 3 names.
And I have a motion.
I would make a motion that we adopt those 3 names.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Only discussion I have is I didn't know that in Annie B's name, the B stood for Brown.
Annie
I had
Brown
no
Stark,
idea.
Crockett Stark.
Yeah, I had to look at it twice in the meeting.
I hear no other further discussion. I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Horny?
Aye.
Huh?
Aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye with one absent. Motion passes 6 with one absent. Next item on the agenda is the VDH agreement. Mr. Dalton?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is the annual agreement that's submitted for the state of Virginia, and I request permission to sign the agreement. Basically says they're going to fund $495,131, and we will fund $341,000 with local dollars to the health department.
I have a motion that we approve Mr. Dalton to sign the agreement.
I'll make that motion.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I have a question under item number 1, letter D. It says, in no event shall the Commonwealth or the Virginia Department of Health be responsible for providing legal defense or insurance coverage for local government employees. Do we have any local government employees that work for the health department?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, that was what
I think what they're saying is, once we bind ourselves by this agreement, that they're not covering you with county for any items that requires legal counsel.
And I don't know if this is an appropriate request or not, but I would request that we get some information from the health department on what services they actually provide under family planning.
Just in written form, you want to make a presentation, Gary? Or
I'm sorry, what?
do you want just some written documentation? or
That's
you want
fine
to
if
make
they'll.
a presentation?
Yeah, no, I don't, if they'll just give us some written documentation.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of giving Mr. Dalton permission to sign the agreement, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6 with 1 absent. Next order on the agenda is the sheriff's office request. I'll find it here. There it is. The sheriff has received a check from the Attorney General and Department of Law Enforcement for $97,000. It's been placed in the general fund, police activity fund, and the sheriff is requesting to move this to law enforcement and traffic police supply budget line 3102 46010. Mr. Dalton, you have any other, or the sheriff, do you want to speak on this?
Chairman, this was basically money that came from the federal government channeled through the Attorney General's office. There's no matching funds to it. It's just straight check for $97,000, which we plan to be able to equip each patrol vehicle with a patrol rifle and sighting system. There's several of the deputies that are carrying their own personal firearms now to serve that purpose, which is approved by me. This will place all the equipment in the sheriff's office venue to where, should there be some damage occurring through an automobile accident, like we lost one rifle in December, it would be covered by insurance, which would not there at this time for the officers that are carrying individual weapons. And it is a need that we have as part of our plan for deployment and response. FBI has actually found that the penetration from this particular rifle is lower than from a 9mm handgun. So we're actually moving to a safer means to be able to respond to a threat.
It's always nice to get money that you don't have to
For free,
match.
yes. Like Christmas.
Okay. I have a motion to move this from the police activity fund, line item 3102-46010.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Hausman, you include the amendment and appropriation of...
To, yes, to amend and appropriate.
Any other discussion? Hear none, do roll call vote. Mr. Horny?
Aye.
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 The chair votes aye, motion passes 6 with 1 absent. Next item on the agenda is other. Mr. Dalton, we have anything else to bring before the board tonight?
Mr. Chairman, I'd request that the board go into closed session to discuss land acquisition that's not been previously announced.
Okay. I'll make a motion that in accordance with Virginia Code 2.2-377, that the board would adjourn into closed meeting for discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose, where discussion in the open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Do roll call vote. Mr. Horny?
Aye.
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 The chair votes aye, passes 6 with 1 absent.
With Virginia law, now therefore be it resolved that the Wythe County Board of Supervisors hereby certify that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the Wythe County Board of Supervisors. I said that all without my mic.
I have a motion to accept the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Do a roll call vote. Mr. Horny?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Passes 6 with 1 absent. Mr. Dalton, I know I've talked to you about this, and this will be the last thing for tonight, is recessing until 5 o'clock on the 20th to enter into a work session on the two ordinance licenses. Yes. I want to get this settled, voted on, and done away with. I mean, we need to go ahead and move forward, and I know I've talked to 2 or 3 of you on my opinion, and I won't go into it tonight. I'll wait till next Thursday at 5 o'clock.
I won't be here, but I'll make sure you know where I stand on it before the meeting, if you want to do that.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Supervisors request from the Ag Expo Committee basically, a chart of their organization, a list of members and a list of officers, and, their overall duties, so that, we can see their organization, as we help them to, to go forward.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, well, I have a motion on the floor to request from the Ag Expo Committee for organizational chart, slate of officers and their duties. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Mr. Dalton, any other business to bring before the board?
The only thing, we're gonna have everybody in the county who's on the EOC stuff, is gonna keep it more than 8 o'clock. We're gonna do some contingency planning in case power outage, snow, delays on the interstate. We're talking about opening shelters tomorrow.
It's gonna snow at midnight tonight, isn't it?
Oh, quit. Hell, Walmart won't have anything
I
left.
gotta go to Walmart. They won't call and complain about us not giving out ice.
Does the school have ice?
Yeah, but you remember when the derecho or power set, or when the power was out, people complained because we weren't giving away ice?
I remember that. We give away snowballs.
Well, I'll be here at 8 o'clock in the morning. Any other business?
Recess until next Thursday.
I'll recess this meeting until February the 20th at 5 p.m.
Steve will tackle you. I locked that other door there.
The code section says we can exempt them if we want to.
because you look beside
Do we wanted to tax? Well, no, it's.
You already got
it's,
your orders for today.
Do what?
I already gave you orders this morning.
Hey,
Visit the Water Authority meeting this morning, and I said, Garrett, you can't talk this afternoon, I gotta be gone by 5.
well, I'm gonna call us back to order from recess. Gene should be here shortly. We're here to take up ordinance 2014 and 2014-1. Mr. Dalton, which one are you gonna start with? I'll let you have the floor.
Motor vehicle license, 2014-1. you have this market where you can put them up side by side? Can you? They're too small?
Yeah, I can get them on top.
Well, you should have the old ordinance and a copy of what I put together earlier today. In the motor vehicle license ordinance, we took away some of that garbage about what year it was, and under authority and stuff, and pared that down. The real difference is when you get over into who you're assessing it to, it removed where it said registered and titled, and it only says registered now, vehicles for license fee. And the other thing that it really changed is under section 10, it's got it in italics down at the bottom. I think under violation penalties, you ought to really strike that where you can go get a warrant for them and have a misdemeanor with a fine of not $100 and just change it to say the violation penalties, especially since you're doing DMV. Say if the license fee is not paid by or on December the 10th, which is past the December 5th date, you just had a penalty equal to the license fee to those people as the penalty instead of that $100. I don't know who's going to go get a $100 warrant unless Sam's going to go down there. I'm not going to go get if you don't pay their license fee, I'm not going to go get a warrant for them.
I go down to $25 is as low as I go. That's just to make it easy on the sheriff's department.
But how much do you charge? How much does it cost to get a warrant for them?
They don't charge me anything because we're the locality, we're the county. So I don't charge anybody when we take the portion of fee. As long as the county does it, they don't charge us. If we send a warrant to another locality, we're charged by that sheriff's department service fee.
But if you're going to do a DMV stop, then it's better just to say a penalty of twice what the fee is instead of going and getting a warrant and doing them.
Well, on DMV stops, we already do a $25 fee for that. There's a $25 fee. DMV charges us $20 for every DMV stop they collect. $20. And when we started doing them years ago, the board said add $5 to it. So I charge $25 for DMV stops that are collected.
So that could be the penalty instead of this $100. I told Scott, I just didn't like this thing about $100 and a misdemeanor.
Yeah, well, that's what I've printed up notices to put the second notices, because we had to do it according to all that stuff I've got from DMV. So we've already got that printed up and ready to stuff, that there is an additional $25 fee to pay for the enforcement by DMV.
So should we just say there's $25 under penalties?
For DMV stops, yes, sir.
There's a $25.
I think you put it under section 11,
Section 11?
section 11B, where it says DMV shall charge a reasonable fee. I think you say DMV and the county treasurer shall charge a reasonable fee to cover.
I tried to blame it all on DMV.
Right. Well, the statute allows the treasurer to charge that fee along with DMV.
Yeah.
So then the person would be paying DMV plus the county?
No.
Right.
No.
No, they charge, whoever collects the money just collects all the money.
I
at
collect
once.
all of it. DMV bills the county at the end of every month. They'll send us a bill, and we have to pay it by the end of the next month.
Well, I understand, but what I'm saying is I don't pay mine. Okay, so then DMV stop costs $25.
Yeah, when you come in to get your license.
Yeah,
Okay, all right, but we as a county have to pay that $25 to DMV, don't
we
we?
paid in 20.
20.
25.
Oh, okay.
So the DMV charges us 20, and years ago, we started, board let us charge 25, so we get $5 fee for the aggravation.
It's an administrative fee for collecting the late fee.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought it was going to be, $25 for DMV and $20 to the county, which I mean, I was okay with if that's what it was, but
I think you can set the fee what you want, because they're gonna come in the same. What they're gonna do is try to get a vehicle registered or driver's license. DMV's gonna say, no, you gotta go pay your taxes, get Sam to release it, then come back after we get the release. And I guess you go on the computer, Sam, and release it.
That, or I prefer to let them take the receipt to DMV and release it, to get it released themselves.
Okay. Well, that's easy.
We've had problems releasing them. I put DMV stops in, and we print a sheet out, and then you go back in to release it, and they can't find it. I don't know why.
But as long as they got the receipt,
If they
DMV,
got a receipt, they can go to DMV office and get released, and I think that's the way we're planning on doing it this year.
Sam, as far as your time frame, is $5 enough of a fee anymore to be catching for the amount of time it takes you to enter that and then do it later? Does that need to increase?
If we get that mass download, it'll be, we're not in it to make money.
Well, I didn't think, I was just making sure we're covering costs, I mean.
Oh, as far as cost goes, yeah, that's, or not, it's sorry.
Okay, if we change that to down there, or under B, I guess is what you're saying, Scott, then strike what's in section 10 up there that's in italics. That's the new draft of the ordinance. Scott's got some things highlighted there. Maybe he wants to.
I just highlighted what you had redlined.
Okay.
Read, so I knew what's.
So
Now,
that's
what-
all the changes.
what are we striking in section 10?
The last sentence,
That's in italics down there.
All of
I added that, and we're adding in section 11 under B, DMV and Wythe County Treasurer shall charge. And I assume then, Scott, that if it doesn't cover the cost, or if you need to add another person to do all this, then we could change that cost for the treasurer and board.
yeah, you're not setting what the fee is, and the DMV fee can potentially change over time and charge more money.
Good, yeah.
So it's just saying, we're passing that DMV fee on and then adding our administrative fee to collect this money.
So,
Currently, it's $20.
Right.
so if DMV goes up to 30, we can, 35 would be the,
35 or whatever. I mean, it
Well,
just says a
last year
reasonable
They tried
fee.
to do that, the Treasurers Association fought with them about it and held it down to 20. So, I mean, it's in their mind, that eventually it's probably gonna go to $30.
I agree, we don't need to put a amount in there.
Right now, under section 10, the, excuse me, the part that was there, that in the black print will stay, that it still will be a class 4 misdemeanor, it's just that we're not going to go for a warrant.
Well, you leave that off.
I mean, we have that option.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's just what I want to know. I agree,
I was just saying, I don't want to be the one going to get all those warrants.
right.
Sam's the one that does it.
We do about 1,000 a year, so, warrant.
I mean, Sam could potentially add it to his personal property tax warrants. If they're not paying personal property taxes, he could add the $20 license fee to that bill and do it all at once.
Yeah, but currently, last meeting, you said around 13,000 out of 17 paid. That's 4,000.
Well, as of this morning, where we have 7,180 people haven't paid it this morning. It's on, I passed that out to y'all, it's on the back of this. This other thing is a report from John Rice, y'all asked about the other day.
Yeah, 7,000 is a lot of warrants.
Yeah. A lot of warrants, but a lot of people still are starting to get their tax refunds, they're starting to come in paid. That's why we're holding off on our, notice we put May the 1st as the deadline before we do DMV warrants, to give people opportunity to come in and pay during the time frame they normally do when they buy their stickers.
And on section 4, if you go back up there, it's in bold, second line down under license fee, it says on every registered vehicle, it used to say every registered animal. and title.
Okay, well, and while you're right there, can I ask about that sentence, there shall be levied and assessed a license tax and fee. Do we need both of those words there?
I didn't change that, that's what was in the last.
Oh, I know, but the reason it was there last time was because I think we were looking at one as a tax and one as a fee. It almost, just the language here almost sounds doubled up a little bit. I would suggest picking one or the other. Most people actually associate this with a fee rather than a tax. I mean, for whatever reason, most people associate it with the user's fee. But
So strike tax
You can
and.
strike tax there.
yeah, okay.
Does that have to do with the late charges and penalties on that? Because you do it with one, you couldn't do it with the other? And that's why it was like that?
Well, since we're going to DMV stop and the penalties, there was no late charges, penalties in this ordinance. The way it was structured. That-
That's what we had to have Don go in and set up these fees without penalty and interest on them. Everything else is penalty and interest, but that $20 does not.
But I was thinking there was something to the way it was worded, it was
So-
had to do with that.
That's everything that we've modified on that. Scott's got any additional stuff, he's more than welcome.
I just had one question on section 7, where you have a $20 fee for vehicles and then a $10 fee for a motorcycle and stuff. At one point, we left out the word trailer, that there was a $10 fee for a trailer, if we insert the word trailer in front of motorcycle. We made that amendment or change to something after we adopted the ordinance initially, so to make sure you get that trailer in there for $10. That's the only comment I have about
All
it.
right, well, in view of that, if you go up to the, excuse me, the first sentence, the second line, just in keeping with the convention of what we've done, do we need to put the word registered between every and automobile? Up in section 4, we said there should be levied and assessed a license fee on every registered motor vehicle, trailer, semi-trailer, tractor. I don't know, do we need to,
It doesn't hurt you clarifying it, you're staying consistent through the ordinance.
well, it just,
You're just adding the word registered.
yeah, to me, and the only reason to add it, because it goes along with what's up in the other section.
Do that same thing for trailers too, every registered trailer, motorbike.
So it should go 2 places, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're saying, Gary, but registered in front of the motor, trailer, semi-trailer, registered tractor, truck, registered motorcycle.
In front of every registered automobile, passenger vehicle, bus, motorcycle, motor scooter, and all, because the registered qualifies, I think, all of that in that series.
Yeah, I was just asking if we could go down and pick it up on the $10 with a motorcycle.
Right, and I understand what you're talking about too, yeah. Because you're saying that we don't have trailer in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't that fall back to those 7-foot trailers and things that had the low license fees? The low, DMV?
We didn't even,
They didn't exempt those out.
No.
And I have one other question, and I think I'm through with the question.
That is 7 foot, is it registered now?
yeah, they're registered. If they're anything less than 9 feet long, we didn't charge them a decal, they just buy a decal. Anything, what our ordinance said, personal use like hauling a lawnmower is 9 feet or less, you didn't have to buy a decal.
That was prior to this.
Prior to
Yeah,
this,
yeah, that's on the old ordinance, is what it was.
My question is, since you're modifying it to register, if it's registered, does that mean register everything? It says registered
Got a
trailer.
tag on it, yeah.
Doesn't make any difference. It's
motor.
In Section 8, payment of personal property tax, no vehicle shall be licensed until all personal property taxes upon the vehicle and all delinquent, da-da-da. Is that where we're saying, when we say no vehicle shall be licensed, is that through DMV?
You're not gonna give them this license fee or whatever. So, but yeah, the end result is they can't get their DMV stuff until they pay all these taxes.
So when we say that no license, no vehicle shall be licensed, we're talking about DMV there? Okay. That's, okay.
Let me ask a question on the motor scooters, are they the same thing as mopeds or something like that? Because we cannot tax a moped.
You're talking about the ones that they can drive without a license?
That's 50cc.
Yeah.
And see, it says motor scooter there in section 7.
Mm-hmm. Well, but the word registered would catch it, wouldn't it?
No, they have to be registered now.
They have
Even-
to be registered even though.
Even the ones that you don't have to have the license
They
for?
have to register them,
Oh.
they have to be carrying an ID on them now.
Oh, okay, well.
They have a license plate?
No.
But they have to be registered.
I didn't know that.
You can't tax them, but it
Well,
doesn't,
we can't tax them.
but it doesn't mean we can't make them pay a fee,
Okay.
right?
I don't know, I mean, that's what I'm asking.
I mean, there doesn't seem to be any exemption in the code section about motor scooters.
Well, wait a minute.
You got a $10 fee on them, right?
Yes.
And Scott, I guess you gave us this definitions, and under moped, it gets down to whether they go 35 miles an hour or greater in the last paragraph.
Yes.
So evidently, if you're going 36 miles an hour, you're not a moped. But,
Yeah, you're something more than that, right?
right.
Depending on whether it's going uphill or down.
It's got one passenger or two.
I thought you had to be over so many cc.
It does have to be over 50 cc's.
Well, do they have scooters over 50 cc's?
Okay, that would be
Yeah.
counted as mopeds, though.
Yeah, mopeds are less.
A moped and a
50 or
scooter's
less
two
of them.
different things.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Does it tell you on the registration how many cc's it is?
I don't know, see, they just started that this year, so we don't.
We haven't seen one.
All right, in the Code of Virginia, this is what says moped, means every vehicle
Yeah.
that travels on not more than 3 wheels in contact with the ground that has a seat that is no less than 24 inches in height, measured from the middle of the seat perpendicular to the ground. So you'll have to get a tape measure.
Yep.
2, has a gasoline, electric, or hybrid motor that displaces 50 cubic centimeters or less. So that's the key. Has an input of 1,500 watts or less. Is power driven with or without pedals that allow propulsion by human power, and is not operated at speeds in excess of 35 miles per hour. For this purpose of this type of moped shall be a motorcycle when operated at speeds in excess of 35 miles per hour. So the big thing is 50
Well, see, there's no
cc's.
moped that's above that.
They can't be on the interstate either, can they?
Not the scooters either, but they make scooters over 50 cc.
Well, can we say in that one, moped as defined by, I've got it here, section 46.2-100?
That's right.
You just go to section 3 and add moped to the definition.
You can if you want, I mean,
You
if
wanna
you're
add
trying to
moped
exempt
to
them
the
from
section.
paying the license fee, yeah. I mean,
Oh,
what Faye's saying is she can't, they're not charging personal property taxes on those things.
right,
The license fee's different than that.
Right.
That's just saying pay the $10 fee. But then you end up sending out a bill for the $10.
You gotta send the bill for
Yeah,
$10.
and make them pay the $10, so.
well, people think it's a user fee. Okay.
Be realistic, how many people,
Got
and why do
mopeds.
they have a moped?
Because they've lost their
They-
license.
lost
They've
their
lost
license.
all their other privileges.
Yep.
They're not fun to ride in the rain.
Actually, the law says that if you lost your license, you
The new
can't
law
drive.
does.
Yep, no motor of any kind.
So they can't ride a bicycle?
That's what it says.
Yeah, they can ride a bicycle, but it doesn't have a motor on it.
He said it says,
Not in the new code.
Does it say wheeled vehicle or,
Anything on a public right of way, if you lost your license for DUI.
by golly, you get you
Tractor.
for riding a horse drunk then, couldn't they?
well, now they can do that.
They have done that.
Yeah, I've seen some, yeah.
Do they arrest the horse or the rider?
I think the person.
That's all it wants, drugs.
Yeah.
So add moped to that definition, Gary? Y'all running out of time here, or I'm running.
Yeah, no, if we're charging them a fee, there's no, yeah. That's just for tax purposes.
Yep.
I don't care.
Okay.
What?
I defer to Commissioner Revenue. She
I
probably.
didn't hear the question.
How many is in the county?
And there's no way for me to know yet, because, see, that's just come into law 14.
Also, you've never got them before. That's, this will be the first year you get them.
Scott, do we cover this new classification, not just for today, but for the future with ATVs being titled? I wasn't aware of that until this whole thing come up and I started getting phone calls.
This is covered for the future. This is just registered.
Yeah, this is just registered.
Okay.
ATVs
Personal
don't
property, we'll talk about that in just a second.
All right,
On the license fee, ATVs.
are exempt?
The one thing you're
Well,
gonna.
they're not registered. They're titled there or whatever. but
Okay.
They're not getting a tag.
All right.
This one is just dealing
That,
with the
that
registry.
clarifies it, thank you.
We're gonna get into the personal property portion of it, exemption here in just a second. Does somebody make a motion to advertise it with these corrections?
I'll make that motion.
Conduct a public hearing on this?
Can somebody,
Second.
can somebody tell me what you changed while I wasn't here?
You got been here.
Well, to be honest with you, I ought to be at the house. I got a calf heifer trying to calve now.
What we did was these, Gene, struck tax. Changed
Well, when that
it.
calf hits the ground, it's
We went
tax
back to
exempt.
register.
Went back to register, where it said register and title, it's just registered everywhere. We added this in here, every trailer, we'd always talk about last time Sam brought up, didn't get back in the ordinance. We struck this stuff, and we added this right here, and that's
What about the fire departments? Are they still getting one free or?
one
Yeah,
for-
it's,
right here,
Okay.
it's just one,
Well, that's the way it's supposed to have been all along, but they were getting two.
yeah, and rescue.
Okay.
What were they putting on top of that building yesterday?
But they have to be turned in?
By May.
Okay. Okay.
It's a date in there. I left my
Hope the
glasses.
code is gone up on
You're in
They
section
turned in
4,
the
I'll
list.
find it, go ahead.
That's
Have they turned in the list in the fire department rescue squads?
material they put
Do
on
they
the
know
block wall.
to turn in the list?
Is an
I'll send
asphalt
a letter
base,
each year.
seal
to
of
get
primer.
this in, so
And that stops the wind and moisture from going through that wall.
I guess we need to get
And
that
then
out,
the
get it
insulation's
updated.
outside that, and the brick is outside.
By May
Have we
1st.
get this, have we started
Okay.
work yet?
Oh, yeah.
I seen them.
All right.
All active.
I didn't know if it was.
Those two truckloads come in today.
Well, that's fine.
but now they
You're
do
gonna
it
be
till the
proud
fall
of it.
anyway.
Okay, I'm done.
These
Okay.
guys personal.
I do a roll call vote. Mr. Horny?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed, 2 absent, 5. 2 absent. Okay,
Hearing will be the May meeting in March.
the win.
May meeting in March. Think about the earliest we get. Got to advertise 2 weeks, 10 days between.
That will be on the 11th.
25th.
No.
Oh, the day meeting.
Yeah, good. I won't be here the 25th. Y'all have fun.
We can delay it for the night meeting in April then.
This not
Yeah.
on the title.
We're not
vehicle.
looking.
This is just on register. That's where all the guff was coming from, and that's in September, that's when we told them we were gonna do that in July. So is that still basically the schedule for that, if we're gonna talk about that again?
I'm lost
What?
now.
Yeah, I don't know what he said.
On September the 30th, we had that public hearing that night, and Steve Crockett, and a bunch of people here raising Cain, and y'all postponed it. You said you tabled it until July.
Sam said the ordinance, they had to come in and get all their title vehicles cleaned up by June 30th or whatever it was, and the July 1st. But if we go to this, I think that's all null and void and gone.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I want to know. 'Cause
Well,
I've had
it's
a lot of questions about that.
Well,
with
it'll
the fee, but it won't do with the personal property.
be done and gone with if this passes.
Yeah.
Joe, you weren't late at the April 9th meeting so you could be here?
No, it's whatever with y'all, I mean, there's,
I think everybody's gonna be in favor of this.
yeah, there's 7 of you, and I haven't had that many complaints about the other. But,
Now, this is the only one I had.
You don't
Just
see
wait
it
till
when you
April
die, Joe.
I don't get paid them big bucks either, Sam.
Either way, if you want to be here, Joe, we'll just wait till the April 9th meeting.
All right, but let's do it, and get it, let's keep this moving.
Okay, next is the personal property.
Next is personal property. I did one, Scott did one.
Oh, did you do a different one?
I got tired of waiting on you, so I did one. So let's talk about yours. All right. It's exactly the same. What he's got, and I think what you need to do is basically have included all the exemptions that are allowed. And you need to go through each one of those. All these are may exemptions. You may do it, you don't have to.
Right. I'll stand up here for a minute and talk to you a second. So currently, we have an ordinance, the 81-4, that exempts farm animals and grains, and also farm machinery, which is pretty vague, farm machinery and implements. The code only allows you to exempt certain things, which is fine with what our ordinance was, but it's pretty specific on being farm equipment, and vehicles not being part of that. Like farm use vehicles or whatever, not being exempt there. So there's language in the draft ordinance here. The Commissioner of Revenue is supposed to assess all kinds of personal property that generally just haven't been done in the past. Like personal property, you're supposed to have an ordinance exempting personal property from taxation. So I just added that here because I couldn't find it in the Wythe County ordinances. I did call around the neighboring jurisdictions. Some of them exempt farm equipment, some of them do not, which I was sort of surprised to see that they have the farmers fill out some kind of form and send it in, and they assess the taxes. Some of them were exempting farm equipment, but they don't have an ordinance saying they can't. I had Tazewell County and Smith County both exempt farm equipment, animals, but I couldn't find an ordinance saying that they exempt it, at least the equipment side of it. So the ordinance there before you that I handed out, the first one just talks about exempting household goods from taxation, and that just copies everything from the Virginia code that the code allows us to exempt. You as a locality have the right to exempt whatever's allowed here, or if you don't want to exempt it, then you can take it off the list. Like, for example, on personal property, you could take off that section I, all-terrain vehicles, mopeds, off-road motorcycles, and have those assessed. Now, how she would assess those, I'm not real sure, other than having an honesty system, like they fill out a form and send it back in. The all-terrain vehicles, some of them are registered or titled, I guess is the right word. So that she would be able to get some of those, but may not get them all, unless people are self-reporting those. So you have the option as the locality to take off something from that, like the antique motor vehicles. You get down to Article 5, which is livestock, grains, agricultural products. That also includes farm machinery, which we should put in that title there for Article 5. So you got several different types of animals there. The farm machinery under Section H says, farm machinery and implements designed solely for the planting, production, or harvesting of a single product or commodity. There's another section of the code that I didn't put in there that just refers to farm machinery in general, that you could farm equipment. And I noticed that when I was reviewing it again before I came over, but that I missed that one. So you can be more broad than this solely for planting, production, or harvesting, if you want to be. You have trailers here, motor vehicles that are used exclusively for agriculture purposes, which are not required to obtain a registration certificate, which is a license plate, under the registration rules. And then trucks, the same thing. So if you want to take those off of the exemption, you can do so. If you want to be clear to say, we want to pick up these farm trucks or pickup trucks that people may not be paying taxes on because they're not registered, you can, I don't think trucks apply here anyway because they're not farm machinery.
I mean, that's the point of us changing from registered vehicles to title vehicles to get these vehicles.
Well, that's the license fee. That's the sticker.
No.
This is personal property
Yeah, I know
taxes.
that.
Right.
That's why we're.
Yeah, the other one didn't address the problem, that we wanted to
So,
address.
so what, and I'm not sure how Faye needs to do this, it's her job, but is when she requests information from the DMV, she's got to get a list of all registered vehicles so she can assess the sticker, or Sam assesses the sticker to the registered vehicles. Then she needs to get a second list of all titled vehicles. And then she does the personal property taxes on all titled vehicles. So there's two different lists that she's going to have to get in order to do that, I think. I think the past practice has been she's just taxed registered vehicles. Yeah.
The only thing that bothers me is that really, we're not exempting equipment, we're exempting farms. I mean, for instance, again.
That's right. That's correct.
Yeah, farm equipment, but it's used by farmers. Again, somebody who runs a landscape thing, if they have a tractor or whatever, they pay.
That's correct.
The personal property tax
Right.
on that.
Which is
Well,
machinery and tools tax, right? Is that a machine and tool taxes? Okay.
Okay, well, the only thing that I'm just asking is, would it not behoove us to put a definition of what a farmer is in our ordinance? I mean, is a farmer technically defined by the government as somebody that does what is it, Schedule F?
Yeah, I think it is when you, they have to come to you periodically, what is it, 5 years?
Every 5 years.
And declare whether they do it honestly or not to give Department of Taxes. And that hurts the county a lot more than a lot of people think it does, because I think from today and the past generations in America, we don't think of 5-acre tracts as a farm. But I guess if you were growing rice or you had a chicken farm, you could have a 5-acre farm. But if you have a form there that says, well, you tell us what it says, it has to make so much.
Yeah, they have to have $1,000. I wish I had brought one of those ones with me. But you have to have $1,000 gross income. You have to file a farm schedule. Or they could be under conservation easement not conservation easement, a conservation plan. Like if you have the government to come in and tell you what you can grow on certain parts of your farm and all.
Well, that's the USDA program.
Well, there's two different programs on that. You have to have a USDA number, plus you have to have verification that you're using using that number to get fertilizer or whatever.
Well, educate us a little bit. You've been there a while. How do these people that have a 5-acre tract or a 12-acre tract that's sort of vertical and has trees on it, how do they qualify as a farm?
If they have cattle on it or something.
No. I'm talking about they don't even have a fence post on it. They've got a trailer or a double wide and 15 acres of mountain land that you could raise goats on. And they qualify as a farmer. How?
If they file a schedule, like I told you one the day that you were in office, the previous commission did not require, if they were already under land use, did not require them to bring any documentation with them if they had on renewal.
Well, in about 3 years before this comes up again. So if we don't let this cloud this issue and go ahead with this, you ought to be recovered enough in 3 years that we look at that. That's the only way you're ever going to clean it
That's
up.
the way you ever clear it up. Most everybody, when they come in here, validate, they're gonna have to bring up the documentation.
And how does that work, like, if you own and you lease it, and they go on
If you lease it to somebody.
yeah, and they're filing a schedule F, but
The person that leases it has to be the one that, that provides the information for that farm. Say that you're leasing somebody's farm, you're gonna have to provide your information to that farm, to that landowner.
Well, it sounds like the process is good if we follow it.
this has never been done like that. So when they come in this 5 years, there's probably gonna be a lot that's gonna be denied.
Yeah, Tim, I lease some property, and matter of fact, I include on my F form, my taxes, who I lease that property from. So if they came in, I'll make 700 bales of hay, which is off the property. All they have to do is I give my F form, they bring it in and say, and I've got the tax number there for them, then they'll qualify for land use, the way I understand it. So
But
it's,
that's only farmland, they're using it to produce hay or
Grow crops or
Grow
cattle, or
crops.
run cattle on it or
but
whatever.
that's pretty easy.
What, that was the next question. Is that an annual
No.
$1,000 or
Every
over?
5 years, every 5 years, but we only.
It's every
No,
5 years.
you're talking
that
about
they
the
do it.
profit, the $1,000 profit, it's yearly,
It's not profit,
No,
it's
it's-
gross.
No.
or gross, I'm sorry.
Okay, is that a county set number or is that
I
in
never
statute?
get any.
It's a statute.
In other words, the state said that.
Comes from state.
Right, but what back to my point is that, a tractor is a tractor is a tractor, except that we're exempting some and not others. So in essence, what we're doing is we are exempting a farmer, but we don't have a definition of what a farmer is.
But you have a definition of what a farm tractor is. It's
Farm machinery.
I mean, and it says in the code,
Yeah,
farm
that-
tractor means every motor vehicle designed and used as a farm, agricultural, horticultural implement for drawing plows, mowing machines, and other farm, agriculture, or horticulture machinery and implements, and this is a new one on me, because I guess I didn't read it very closely, including self-propelled mowers designed and used for mowing of lawns.
But that's only for people who are using it to farm. Is that not right?
No.
If it qualifies.
Well,
then
if it can do that.
It can do that, it's exempt. It's a farm machine.
46.2-100, you look over there under state statute, farm tractor. And it's already been litigated, Trippitt versus Commonwealth in 1972.
I mean,
Right.
so
Yeah.
if you've got an acre and you've got a farm tractor there,
Your tractor's safe.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, a
He's
guy
talking
that
about a
has,
landscaper that's
Well-
used, but that's,
but also I'm talking about, I think I told you this the other day, I followed a F-150 into Retreat, and actually I was going to the post office, and it went to the post office too. A little newer than mine, had fancy wheels, big fancy grill-like thing on it. The guy got out, and I tell you what, if he was a farmer, he was in he was, in costume, not dressed like one. He went into the post office, came back out, got in his truck and left. That's a violation of using it. Plus, that guy was not, I didn't know him, but I would be willing to bet that he's not a farmer. Is there some way that we're gonna be able to get the word out that, that these farm use vehicles, anything that has a farm use tag on it has gotta be used by a farmer in conjunction with the Code of Virginia.
Well, a pickup, right here, a pickup is not counted as a tractor.
Right, I understand that. But a pickup, if somebody just has an old pickup on their farm and they haul.
That's already classified under the Code of Virginia, under motor vehicle code. See, if the sheriff actually stops that vehicle and writes him a ticket, he's got to prove that he's a farmer. But the sheriff and them are not writing tickets for that because the judge down here doesn't do anything about it.
I talked to a state trooper yesterday, he told me they would not stop a farm use truck
No.
unless they're doing something, speeding or something like that. But as far as just driving the state for that truck, they're not gonna stop.
Well, that's why we're really here. This is not about road use, this is about collecting taxes for personal property. So if we pass this ordinance to tax every truck that has a title and get away from these erroneous exemptions, then we've done our job. It's not about farm tractors, it's about these trucks.
I understand.
And this will clean that part of it up. We don't have to put the burden on the police that are not doing that job. It puts the burden on sending them a tax ticket. You can send them a tax ticket that they own a 747 jet airliner, and they have to come in and convince you they don't own it, don't they? That's the long and short of what we're trying to do. Or you don't own the airliner, do you?
Gary, this is why I say about the definition of farmer. There's a reason that the Code of Virginia is silent. They've defined everything. They don't know what a farmer is. I don't think that we know what a farmer is.
I would say there's too many definitions.
I mean,
I
I can qualify for farm use. I qualify for tax exempt.
You put out an acre of peppers.
But am I
and
really a
harvest
farmer?
them and sell them. I mean, you're a farmer.
I've got a FSA number, I've got I file an F form, I have land use, I've got tractors, but am I really a farmer? Gene Horning makes his living as a farmer. Tim Reed, maybe.
Try to.
Maybe. I work a lot at farming, spend a lot of hours at it, but my life, my real job is right here.
Well, I mean,
I would be a lot skinnier than what I am if that was on the source of income. If that was on the source of income I had, I'd be a lot skinnier than what I am now.
I mean, if the definition of farmer is not important in this, I'm okay with that. I mean, I agree, it's about collecting personal property tax, it galls me.
Well, Gary,
Yeah.
I'm a good example on the other side of that. I'm not a farmer. I don't do anything to make a profit farming. And if it wasn't for the land use with the conservation easement, I'd be paying the full price on that vertical land. But I went through this when the former commissioner was there. I'd have to lie to qualify to be a farmer. I could certainly say that we sell $5,000 worth of eggs in 5 years. And it'd be hard to prove that you do. But it's the fact of, are you a farmer? You're right. I'm not a farmer. I think Salell happens to be a farmer and he works at another job so he can afford to farm.
You know, if we go to title vehicles, the only person that person is cheating now will be the state, because the state won't, but the DMV won't be collecting their fees for the tax.
And you won't be getting a license fee.
Right.
Yeah.
But we'll get the.
But are we gonna charge this on all trucks? I mean, like dump trucks? I mean, if they've got
If it's titled a DMV.
if they've got a 20-year-old dump truck out there, are we gonna send them a tax ticket on it?
Unless you're exempt for
I-
antique.
Now, wait a minute.
You talking about an Ensign truck?
Yeah.
Well, let's don't get off track here.
Okay.
Tell him how it can get so low in value that it
Yeah.
does, that you're not gonna get one.
And-
If you've got a new $25,000 insulin truck, I'm sure you feel like you ought to pay on it.
I feel like if I've got a $25,000 instance truck, I can afford to pay that.
That's right. If you've got a $1,000 insulin truck, we'll pray for you and you won't have to pay any taxes.
Well, you better start praying.
Cause I know some people, I know some farmers that's got instance trucks.
She's got something she wants to say about insurance trucks.
The only thing, not about English trucks, the only thing I want to say is on these vehicles, anything $1,000 or under, the PPTRA is going to pay for that. So that's going to make anybody that's got a nicer vehicle, their taxes are going to go way up next year.
Dave, we've got some numbers prepared about that.
Yeah, it wasn't that much.
Gene, I will say, if it's, let's talk a bit about the salvage truck. I don't want to complicate it and scare away, but if it's worth $1,000 and its gross is 7,500 pounds or bigger, you're still going to pay $1,000. You're going to pay $22.
PPTRA will pay it.
No, not gross. I don't want 7,500.
Oh, if it's over
7,500
7,500, yeah.
pounds.
If it's over
Yeah, so
7,500.
those silage trucks and dualies and stuff, they will, PPTRA doesn't pay that because
That's right.
I just want to make it clear that, but, you know, we've prepared, I think, from phase off some numbers. David's got some impact, can share the impact of changing it over to titled vehicles. David, would you run through that right quick? Sure. I know I promised I'd stay.
What I did is I went and took, the last information that we have that has values on it is the 2013 taxes. So we haven't gotten this year's on there yet with values. So I took the tax tickets that went out in September, October, and that's, if you look at the breakdown here, it shows how many vehicles, what the values were, and what the taxes were. And I also took, when we did the download of titled vehicles, what I did back in September, the values on these were estimated because the DMV download didn't have anything with values. We'd already run through the NADA. There was nothing there to actually get real values off of. So I took it based on the average vehicle for that year. So if in 2010, the average vehicle was $10,000, then I assigned $10,000 to every vehicle that was on the title list, just to have something to compare it to. Since otherwise, we have no basis to do any comparisons at all.
So you're estimating an increase of about 800,000?
That is considering no exonerations. So that'd be considering no, and I think we're going to see a pretty significant number of exonerations.
If you look at that chart, Gary,
The chart on page 2.
I think if you'll look at that, David, explain the difference in colors.
Okay. The chart on page 2, the number of vehicles by year.
And it goes right to left?
Yeah, the newest vehicles are on the left. What you'll see is after the blue one are the registered vehicles that we're currently taxing. The red is the vehicles that came in on the titled only download. So what we're seeing is on the blue, we're seeing that peak out about 2,000. The maximum number of vehicles is peaking out about 2005, and then starts tapering off. But on the titled vehicles, we're seeing that is actually building up until the mid-'80s, about 1987 is when it's the highest. So I think what we're going to see if we do this is you're going to see a lot of exonerations for those mid-'80s vehicles. I think a lot of those are going to be.
I think logically you can see the one that's in red by itself. You're going to see a lot of exoneration. Ms. Bay Barker crew will work like dogs trying to get rid of a lot of that stuff in that red with those peaks and those 80s. What I believe is that registered, what's the double colors, most of those are probably still out.
Mhm.
So, but let's just be honest, it's gonna be a lot of work, a lot of exonerations.
Yeah.
Initially.
The
My,
first
you
year.
know, I don't have anything hard, I don't have any hard numbers on what it might be for exonerations.
Yeah, well, it will be, some will
But-
pay it.
Well, like, this year, we've already, this morning, I was looking at the last one we had in, 1,076 exonerations this year, and most of them have been on those license fees.
Right.
Now, what it impacts us, and this is back to the program, DMV, until they turn the title in, it'll never really show up.
And they cannot turn titles in. They cannot turn, I went to DMV and asked them, they cannot turn titles in unless they're getting ready to crush them. And that's the only way that you can turn a title in.
Well, that makes sense.
So, but what we will have to do internally is keep an ongoing database of these exonerated vehicles that they no longer have. And each year, David,
Right.
whoever's
We'll-
here, will have to.
We'll carry that over year so that we're not having to do the same exoneration every single year.
Yeah, so pretty soon after a period of time, it'll go away, but it'll take a while.
Yeah.
I just,
It'll be more than 1 year.
Yeah.
just let's be clear right up front.
But even at a-
We're not promising the world, but it's gonna be difficult for a while.
Even at a 50% exoneration rate, we're still looking at what, 400,000?
Potentially 400,000, yeah.
Actually, most of the money is gonna be up front, because after you get to those 80s, you're talking about $1,000 vehicles and stuff. And somebody says I'm late, where I'm supposed
That's
to be.
just gonna come out of your PPTRA money.
Yeah, I do have the numbers on that too.
David's done worst case and calculated PPTR
Yeah. One of the things that Slow was talking about was with the tax revenue. If you look on the next page, you see the tax revenue by year. So you can really see that based on an average value of the vehicles, that you're not going to get a lot of, I mean, it's not going to be the money per year that you would be getting off of, say, you've got a lot more registered 2005 vehicles than you have titled 2005 vehicles. So that's why the numbers are a bit different there. But as you can see, as you get further down in there, although you're going to see a lot of number of vehicles in 1987, not a lot of titled vehicles for 87, you're not really that much revenue there. So if you compare page 2 to page 3 for like the mid-80s, you're not seeing a whole lot of revenue for each year worth of vehicles, even though there's a lot of vehicles. So, on page 4, which is the PPTRA qualifying vehicles, I've worked up what would be the effect of adding the titled vehicles into our PPTRA calculations. The first one is the registered vehicles. That's I don't know if it's exactly the same numbers that we ran for the tax tickets, but it's very close. The second one is using the titled vehicles, and I had to make some assumptions there because I don't know exactly what's a qualifying vehicle, because I don't know on these titled ones. So I used the same percentages basically that we have for the registered vehicles. So everything under $1,000, basically anything older than 1990 is going to end up in that under $1,000 category. Assumes that the over 20,000 vehicles are going to be the new ones. That, of course, makes sense as well. And for that, we had about 24% of the newest vehicles came in as above $20,000. So there's 3 steps in the PPTRA rates for that. And the rest of them qualifying at about a 75% of vehicles qualify for PPTRA. So that's what I used to arrive for the numbers for the titled only. That may actually be a little bit low on the under 1,000, but I wanted to be pretty realistic, because you're really seeing, although on the register you only have 2,500 vehicles under $1,000, entitled, you're probably going to see upwards of 10,000 in that same category, just because of all those vehicles in the mid-80s are going to arrive in that price range. When you look at the numbers, combine everything together, the state gives us $1.5 million, just a little bit over 1.5 to do the PPTRA reimbursement. Everything under $1,000, we just pay that completely. Whatever the taxes are on that is paid. So we're not sending out a tax bill for $2. And that number would go up from a current of $31,000 to $155,000. So that's even before you start calculating the share for everybody else. That comes off the top. When you add up the others, it takes the percentage down from what we had this year, 45.39%, down to 35.97%. So you're going to see an increase. So everyone who has just a regular qualifying vehicle is going to see an increase on what they have to pay on their taxes without any changes to anything else. And that's because of two things. It's the dilution of the under 1,000 vehicles, and also the fact you're adding more vehicles to the system.
Adding to your fleet base.
Right, if you make the fleet larger, you only have so much to divide up, it's going to be thinner. But you also have a lot more that are taking that whole amount of money off at the beginning. And of course, these numbers are assuming no exonerations, because we don't know what our percentage would be for that.
Is all PPTRA based on weight of vehicle?
No, it's based on whether it's a business use and farm use vehicles or not, trailers or not, and campers, everything over 7,500 gross. All those things are not qualified, or non-qualifying vehicles. So it's basically a personal use vehicle.
So the tax applies then?
Right.
Okay.
But the numbers here have already accounted for that, because approximately 75% of the vehicles in the county qualify for PPTRA. So on the titled-only vehicles, I assumed also 75% would qualify. So out of the 33...
But if they're running a farm tag and they're not registered, they wouldn't qualify for those.
Right. But that would be part of the 25% that I did not include in this list. So, what I had is, of the 33,000 vehicles, we had 24,000 that qualified. So about 75% of them qualified. So I did the same assumption on the titled vehicles, that 75% would qualify, which is about the only thing you can do with that.
That's a swag, and that's going to, you just extrapolate what you're currently doing to what could happen.
Right.
And those trends should stay pretty close.
Right.
I think that's good logic.
So in essence, you're looking at a 43-cent tax rate increase.
In general revenue, what the county would get from vehicles, yeah, it'd be the equivalent to that. That's what's on the last page. On the last page is basically what the effects it would have. You'd be getting an increase in revenue, and this is assuming no exonerations, which is a bad assumption, but we don't know what that's going to be yet, of 18.9% for vehicles. That's not total revenue for the county. That's just on vehicles. That would be if you stayed with registered vehicles only, it'd be the same as adding 43 cents to the tax rate for vehicles.
You're just saying that $806,000 additional?
Right. Right, to arrive at an extra $806,000 in revenue, which is what the difference is.
So you're saying if we stay at registered vehicles, we'd have to raise the tax rate 43 cents to get that extra 800,000.
Right.
But if we include titled vehicles, we're really not raising a tax rate.
Right.
You're not raising the rate, but when you're reducing PPTRA,
People will be paying more,
that are
yeah.
paying their taxes now, it's going to be like a 43-cent increase in their
What,
taxes.
no, it won't be like that. What you'll see.
This is,
what you'll see on, now, what you'll see on that actually
make sense.
is, actually on the bottom of page 4 has an example. Basically, if you have a vehicle that's valued at $10,000, the original tax on that is $227. The current PPTRA reimbursement would be $103, but once we add titled vehicles, that dilutes that down to a reimbursement of $81. So you'd be paying an additional $22 on that vehicle.
Count the depreciation of your vehicle.
Right, that's just,
So 50 water.
Now you might be.
I hate to run. Mr. Barrett will take over.
What's that last?
I hope you win.
The same rate increase they on the last.
basically, that was just showing what the difference was between 227 and 270. So,
The ones you got.
to get the $5 million in, well, to make up the $806,000 that you have on titled vehicles, it would be at 18%.
That's what was meant, Joe.
Would be 43 cents on a 227 rate.
Just like when you add all that excess value of new vehicles every year or whatever, it's always changing. It's just, you just calculated that out.
Right.
The main thing is that difference on the page 4 or whatever.
Right. Yeah, that was just showing how much, if you did not do titled vehicles, you wanted to get the same amount of revenue, what you would have to do.
Let's go back to Tim's point, so I want to clarify this. The $20,000 pickup truck that I have, that I've had farm use tags on in the past, I've never paid any personal property tax. Now, we're going to be getting it because it's a titled vehicle. But it would still be getting the PPTR tax relief. How are you going to know that it is not?
It would not, because farm use plates would qualify it as a business use
It
vehicle.
won't be on the registered vehicle list.
Would not be on the registered, so really it'd be difficult to determine whether or not it would qualify.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'm saying
Yeah.
is, it's going to be, you're going to have on there a pickup truck valued $20,000.
Right,
You know that it's not registered.
right.
So because it's titled, is it still eligible for the relief?
If it's over 7,500.
No, it's not over 7,500.
Just a regular pickup.
Just a regular pickup.
Well, another thing plays in,
Well, if it's not registered, if they don't have a tag on it, they can't collect any. So they'd have to pay the full tax on it themselves. They wouldn't get nothing back from the state on it.
Well, the problem would be trying to determine that, because you may have, let's see, the problem you would have, you could just as easily have.
Well, I mean, if you got two lists, you got the registered vehicle list that you're gonna charge a license fee, the $20
personal
license
property.
fee.
Right.
And then you got a list of title vehicles.
But I don't
If they're not on that registered list, they're gonna be charged for the whole amount of taxes. that the
So
other-
somebody would have to cross-reference to see
Yeah.
if they were on both lists.
And I'd have to look at how personal property tax relief is structured. I don't know that it says registered vehicles only. I think it's against all vehicles
That are personal use.
that are for
Personal
personal
use.
use.
Which is
Right.
gonna be the 1985 Honda Accord that's parked in the backyard
But-
with tags on it.
But you're not gonna know if the
But I
1985
have a
pickup
1985
is or is
pickup,
not.
and we don't know if it's farm use or not.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, Tim, I understand what you're saying, but I understand how we want to charge them full, but I'm not certain
that we
that we'll
can't.
be able to do that, because it would mean having to identify those, and I'm not sure how we can pull those out. And even if we could pull them out, whether or not they would still be eligible for personal property tax relief. I tend to think that they would be.
Yeah, I know the things that we can pull would be based on weight.
Yeah.
Those are, weights, trailers, things like that we can pull. But as far as knowing what it would be as far as a pickup goes,
DMV told me they could not run a list of just vehicles.
Right.
Of trucks,
right, so, I mean,
pickups.
we will have some information there as far as the newer vehicles will still show up on NADA listings when we do the valuations. So we'll still be able to get good values on those. These older, the 1980s vehicles, you're not getting values from NADA. It's going to be a bit difficult to value them, period, because what you'll have is old vehicles, no NADA on them. We'll have to see if I can get a purchase price or anything like that to work a depreciation on. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of hard to value some of those.
Could you,
When you, sorry.
well, I was just wondering, could we, I mean, we're going to tax on registered vehicles, that's a given.
Right.
Because we're doing it. Could we do the titled vehicles that are only, say, 10 years or newer? And then that, I mean, that would eliminate a lot of those that are titled vehicles that are going to be covered completely, wouldn't it?
You can't exempt a vehicle that's not listed on your list there.
On which list?
The commissioner has to tax personal property on everything unless you exempt it. And the only things you can exempt are household goods, animals, and farm equipment. So if you've got or an antique vehicle, if it's.
And
falls
that's
under
20, that's
that
20 years
definition
or
of
older.
antique, Whatever that definition.
I think it's 25.
Well, the
I think
antique,
it's
20
25.
years old.
I think it's 20.
but the antique vehicle requires a antique tag
That's right.
in our, in ordinance. Can you not query the database from DMV for registered vehicles and then titled but unregistered?
Well, that's what this is. I mean, everything here that's on this reports that is titled.
Is that what you-
Is just titled.
Okay.
It's everything that's gone completely inactive and fallen off the end of DMV.
Well, let me.
So they had to
how do-
actually do
how
a
do we
specific
value-
query for that.
How do we put a value on registered vehicles?
NADA.
It comes the value on it from DMV.
Well, actually, no, we actually,
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe I'm not understanding then. What's,
NADA only goes back so far to put values on.
right, and so that's the problem that we're talking about is?
Yeah.
Oh.
When you get more than 20 years old, NADA doesn't value them anymore. I'm not sure, we'll have to go back to DMV to see if we can get any more information out of the file on that. If we can get a original purchase price or something like that from it, then we can figure out a depreciation on it to come up with a value. Otherwise, it is going to be difficult to arrive at a value on these.
Scott, you said we can't exempt anything except what's in, ordinance. I understand that. Can we set a value, a preset value on vehicles past a certain age? Automatically? Okay.
Well, how, as all these years, we've been able just to tax just registered vehicles and all the titled vehicles have just got away with it?
Commissioner's office just didn't do it.
Well, I mean,
It's a different,
by the
it's a
code
different
of
download.
Virginia.
And a lot of counties, you're right, a lot of counties don't. A lot of counties just pull the tagged vehicles, and that's what they tag.
Well, that's
Versus the title.
That's not by code. though.
It's sort of like all the rest of these that were exempted, it's sort of like bicycles and everything else. Technically, we should have been assessing these and taxing them.
Right.
Because according to what you said, we can't exempt anything except what we've got here. And so in effect, we've been violating law for,
Years. But
40
everybody else
years.
did too. It's
yeah,
not-
That'd be longer than that. I
yeah.
know that.
The commissioner's supposed to assess the personal property taxes on everything, all personal property.
Joe?
How does the exoneration process go? If you just send them all a tax bill of what you get, then what process do they do for exoneration?
They have to provide us with whether they dropped off the insurance or if they're not on DMV when we pull up our DMV records.
We mean dropped off the insurance?
Insurance, what's the insurance
If you
cover?
drop the insurance off of the vehicle, they can bring a letter from their insurance company telling us when the car was gotten rid of or wrecked or.
Well, what's that got to do with personal property value?
That's what you were asking me about exoneration.
Oh, well, let me ask you.
But
this.
that was, I think what she's saying is in our current method.
Well, I want to know how it's going to work if this passes. If somebody comes and says, well, Lord, I hadn't paid insurance on this car for years because I never take it on the road, will they be exonerated?
I wouldn't think so if you were going to do title vehicles.
Well, that's what I'm only talking about, title vehicle. Now, let's take that into these folks that I've got Nastagram from. My car's worth $100,000, and I'm not going to pay $20 tax on it, talking about the license fee. That doesn't make a lot of sense. If his Shelby Ford is worth $100,000, he can certainly afford to pay taxes on it. He don't have to have it. He's got a garage full of these classic cars. Why should he get subsidy from the county of not being taxed on this value?
Well, the issue you run into there, I think we're gonna see this a lot. I mean, I went through it, I'm looking through it to see what kind of information's in there, and I found where my mom had an old diesel Mercedes. Well, that vehicle has been parked in the field for 10 years, and now it's been crushed. But it was crushed like over a year ago, but it still showed up in its DMV download.
Well, now that I
titled
understand.
vehicles.
It's deceased.
The question we have to find out, though, is how do we resolve those? Because there's probably going to be an awful lot of these in that list as well.
Every time I've ever taken a car, they've had to have the title.
Well, they never reported it back to DMV, is what we're going to see.
Well, no, I had mine crushed, and I didn't take the title, and they crushed it. And that was 4 years ago, and I took the title to DMV and said I had this car crushed some years ago, and they took it off.
Right. So something like that, those sort of things, I don't know if she got the title to it or not. I honestly don't. I was looking at it when I was going through some of this stuff yesterday, and just.
I think with this new scrap metal law, though, I think that you have to have the title to be able to get rid of those.
Well, that was in effect. I mean, Robert took it down there and they crushed it. I mean,
They're supposed to turn that information in.
they took the VIN number and his driver's license and took a picture of him and crushed the vehicle.
I'll tell you what you'll have to do now, sort of like what you were talking about, the DMV stops. They're gonna take a paper from you and go to DMV. You're gonna need something from DMV telling you that that vehicle's crushed or that vehicle, you're not just gonna have them tell you they canceled insurance on it now. You gotta have.
This form,
Yeah.
you have to have this form from DMV now to be able to crush the vehicle.
Non-repairable, that's that thing I sold you, Corey.
Right, you gotta have it. That right there, fill that.
When did it go in effect? When did they start doing that?
I guess he started that when he heard they let people pick up cars in the county, didn't he?
It says on this form is September the 25th of 11.
So, but, there's also, I guess the question you have to think about is, how do we resolve those? And how do you keep people from just coming in and go, oh, I don't have that vehicle anymore? What process do we, something that has to be looked at. And I'm not sure the board will decide that, but it is something that has to be addressed.
Well, that's something between them and DMV. I mean, they'll have to go, the DMV will always carry that vehicle until they go to DMV and prove it to DMV that they don't have that vehicle. I mean, why should they come to the county to prove that they don't have that vehicle?
Well, to get the
It's DMV,
exoneration,
it's DMV that needs to take the vehicle off.
But I don't know if they can even look at, I don't know if you can even pull those titled-only vehicles on when they look up DMV, I don't think the titled vehicles are gonna show.
I can go to DMV and ask them to pull up my vehicles, and every vehicle I got's got a title to it, or it's got a tag or not, they can pull it up.
Yeah, I don't know that they can pull that information in Faye's office, though.
No, we can't.
I think they may be,
But
I
when-
think they're
but
limited
when
to
they
only
request-
registered vehicles.
So when you request the list from DMV,
But on our DMV download, on our DMV screen that we can look at, we cannot look at titled vehicles.
So I guess that may end up being an issue where if someone wants to exonerate that, they've got to go to DMV, they've got to get the information and bring something back to you. That may be what it has to be.
I mean, there's bound to be some way to do it. There are counties out there that's doing titled vehicles.
Yeah.
I know Pulaski County, they send out the tax ticket, but because I talked to the commissioner on this, she says they send out the tax ticket, but then if you've got it up in the field or something, then they exonerate it just automatically.
Which I think is the thing we're not wanting to do.
We hope we don't.
Right. So if we require that and they bring the paperwork back, we can add that to a list of a permanent list of exonerated vehicles, so even if DMV doesn't get it out of their database, we'll know not to run it again next year. But it's just something that, had to kind of be thought through to make sure that we're not missing something big on it.
The problem is people trade out of state.
Right,
A lot of times, Virginia DMV doesn't get the information on those cars.
yeah. And that's,
And that causes a problem with a lot of customers who trade out of state.
oh, I know, I've ended up with titles from 2 different states before as well.
Yeah.
But I think in that case, it would still be go to DMV, I no longer have this vehicle, you're turning in that title, getting the paperwork to come back. So I think that's probably a pretty viable method.
Legally, they're supposed to fill out their registration forms, and say this vehicle was sold in such and such county, but how many people do that?
I just don't think the DMVs in different states talk to each other like they should on that, is what's happening.
Without paying $5.
Well, no, I mean, I lived in Wisconsin, and I ended up with a Wisconsin title and a Virginia title for my truck.
Car.
For my truck.
Yeah.
So. But I think that might be the way to handle it. There will, yeah, I think so. But there's going to be a large number of exonerations if we go this route. Just, I just have a feeling we're probably talking. My gut feeling is probably 5,000 exonerations, honestly,
And so we've got the,
or more.
the public hearing set when?
Well, we set it on
We have not.
April, not this one. Well, we were
That
doing
one's
both.
April.
The other one's in April.
Oh.
We can still,
Okay.
I mean, we can bring
I'm
this
sorry.
up again at next week's meeting. And-
Well, while we're on this, let me ask one other question on what is it, section, Article 5, 5.1H. We were talking about like silage trucks or in-sleeve trucks. Farm machinery and implements designed solely for the planting, production, or harvesting of a single product or commodity. Would that not?
Which one?
The truck's not designed solely for that.
Truck's not designed solely for that.
I mean, it's just a dump truck, or it could be.
And Gary, yeah, it's not used solely for that. It goes to the
No, it's not
quarry from
designed
time
solely
to
for that.
time.
Even if you use it solely for that, that's not
number
what
are
it's
you?
specifically designed
Right here,
for.
H.
I do not see that exempting the salvage truck.
Okay.
Yeah, you can, there's other language in the statute that I neglected to get in there, which says farm machinery other than what's described here in H, and farm implements. So
Yeah.
you can broaden that up and say any farm machinery or farm implements, period. But then you're gonna have the same argument that we had with the old ordinance, which is, I've got this truck, it's a farm truck, it's a new dually, that should be exempt because it's a farm.
Well, it's done been litigated. It says, well, a farm implement is something that tills the soil.
Right.
That's not a pickup.
And I don't think farm machinery is either.
Okay.
I don't think it's farm machinery either.
Oh,
Truck.
yeah. But on these exemptions over here, and, Slay will give me the ones he marked out, and me and Joe was talking about them before. If we don't take out 9, 11, 12, 13, and B and C, we're defeating the purpose of even doing this.
Now, where were you?
You've lost me. Where are you at?
On the exemptions.
Yeah, so you're looking at the one Soleil drafted with the numbers.
Oh, okay, that's the problem. I'm looking at yours with letters.
H, J, K.
How, he's got them numbered.
No, he's scrolling down the code of Virginia.
Right, with the numbers.
7505.
Okay, and still, you talking about taking out which?
Well, Slay
Where are you?
made a, if you don't,
They're the same
I'll let
thing,
you
they're
look
just
at
numbers.
his.
I put letters instead of numbers.
but if these are not
Well, I must
taken
have,
out,
I must have
he
two
put
of yours.
letters.
Both of mine's got letters.
Which numbers, Tim?
Oh, okay, well, he's
9.
already taken those out.
No, not on Scott's hasn't.
Well, I don't see him here anywhere.
Did you got one of these that's got numbers? Yeah, you should have two. One should be
That's what
Scott's
he
and one
gave.
should be,
Which is,
no, this one's different.
Bruce?
That's different.
I don't have number 9 in mine.
Should have another.
Anybody out there in the hall, tell them to come on in.
Well, maybe I haven't seen the one
It's not
that
a
Soel,
closed session.
make X.
I may not have seen the one that Soel handed out, if he handed one
Both
out.
of them's the same, both of them's got the
No, it's, he just handed it to me,
That's what says one of five.
because that's what can be exempted.
And trucks.
He put,
So there you go. Those last 3.
Steven, you got an ink pen over?
IKJ.
Oh, never mind, there's some here. I'll steal this list. I used to have some up there.
That's right. Don't have any now.
Yeah, this is,
Or the
statute. But this is the 3 in Scott's.
Yeah, just the last 3.
Well, while y'all were looking at that, Stephen, they said a while ago that to be classified as antique, it has to have antique tags. Is that our ordinance, or is that the state code?
All right, wait a minute. Okay, J, K.
Where's it in the state
and
code at?
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what it is. I don't know.
46.1-100.
I got that one. It's right
Okay,
here.
because K would, would take in
46.2-100?
silage
This is
trucks,
not less than
insulage trucks.
25.
Yeah, but it doesn't say anything about it having antique tags.
No, I know some harbors that got some of those trucks that weren't.
So that means if it's 25 years or older, it should be exempt.
Right, if you're exempting it, if you leave that in there for antique vehicles, right? You can take that out of that first part.
This is the one,
Well, I think it needs to be in there,
JK.
That's
What's
correct, that's the
front
right
of it look
definition.
like?
Should be 46.2.
but it doesn't say anything about tags though,
This
right?
one,
That
Scott.
definition does not, yeah.
That's what we always did, and I don't know exactly where it came from, maybe it was in our old
Okay.
ordinance, but in order to not
No.
have to get a tag, they had antique tag on the car.
But see, back then, all you went by was registered vehicles anyway. So, I mean, if it didn't have tags on it, you wouldn't know they had it anyway.
Not that one. It's that one.
The issue you run into there, though, is I've got a truck that's 25 years old and it's still registered. I'm still be paying taxes.
Well, I mean, in my opinion, if it's 25 years old, it should show up as antique, and you should be exempt from taxes, even if it is registered.
Well, that's the under 1,000 yet?
No, it maxed out at 1145.
So you're paying taxes on $145?
No, I'm paying tax on $1,145.
I mean, technically, they're not exempt at all right now. I mean, we don't, the only exemption we have for personal property taxes is the farm machinery and animals and livestock that's existing right now. If you look at Article 4 here, the household goods, and it includes that antique vehicle right there, which you can leave in there or you can take out. You know, and that definition is the one Gene's referring to, saying if it's more than 25 years old, then you're exempting it, period.
Can we do that? If it's more than 25 years old?
That's what
the Code of Virginia
definition
says. It's what the
Oh.
definition in the Code of Virginia says is 25 years old.
Okay.
And used solely as a collector's item. That's in there.
That's right.
And used solely as a collector's
Collector's
item.
item. So if it's not a collector's item, I mean, that'd be a determination. They'd have to come in for exoneration and say, this is my collector's car.
Well, if I've,
Start to say this junk piece.
well,
Versus my old
if
truck.
I've got a silage truck and it's 25 years old, then it's a collector's item. It collects dust for about 50 weeks out of the year.
We had it one time, this guy came in, he had an old car, and CS was charging him as a collector's item, had a big rate on it. He said, hell, that's all I can afford is this 20-year-old car. You know? And she was charging him as a collector's item, and Jack's still way up there.
Scott, I guess in looking at Gene's concern on trucks and what Dr. Houseman brought up, under L, that are exclusively used by farmers in their farmer operations for the transportation of farm animals or other farm products in that other section in 5.1. Grains and other feeds used for the nurture of farm animals. So the hauling of insulage
If you leave it in there, then that's gonna pick up that dually truck.
I was gonna say, that's the problem. If you leave that one in there, it's gonna pick up that $20,000 or $50,000 dually.
I'm suggesting taking
Take it
JK and L out.
JK and L out.
Because all those provide that question as to whether or not I can get away without paying taxes on my truck.
This is our opportunity to clarify what we're really doing. Let's do it right.
Right.
And if Mr. Farthing's got enough instruction from this, I move that we take it to the next meeting and let him produce a new document and us take it up at that time.
I have a couple questions for you. Do you want the antique thing, you want to exempt the antique vehicles, which is more than 25 years old, solely for collector purposes as defined?
Yeah.
All right. What about ATVs? You want ATVs exempt?
I think
Yes,
so.
I talked to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Tax
Yeah.
safety budgets.
Yeah, I think you ought to be.
And then
Because they never hit the road or anything.
take out the last
Where do you live?
Huh?
Well, they're not supposed
They're not supposed to.
Everybody here in the middle street now.
I still think we need to figure out some way to, I mean, you're gonna have, you thought it was bad them coming in here fussing over $20. You start telling them that you're gonna charge them personal property tax on that $5,000 dump truck or $2,000 dump
It's a
truck.
state law, and because we haven't enforced it, doesn't make it right. Now, we gotta buck up to this one.
It's not state law because it says
It
right
is.
there, if we leave L in there, then they're exempt.
It's a local option to leave it in there because you put it in there to start with 20-some years ago. Do you not think that?
Telling you, they're gonna be, you're gonna have a packed house and they're gonna be you,
If
and
we,
I'm gonna be one of them.
one of the things maybe that maybe we ought to look at is K, because I've just been looking at the Code of Virginia, and maybe Scott could do that for us to that section 46.2-665, 666, 66, and
665
670.
is a farm use vehicle, so you get farm tax on it. 666 is a seasonal vehicle. I'd have to look at that real quick. And then 670 is for sawmills.
Right.
Like a lumber type facility.
But if you look at the 665, it's extremely restrictive in what in what that vehicle is and what it does.
That's right, but you still got the same problem with enforcement. The sheriff's not enforcing it.
Yeah.
You know, so if they're not, I mean, you've got to, I guess you can still tax it. It doesn't matter whether it's enforcement or not. You can still tax it, but how are you going to determine that this truck that's titled is used exclusively within 20 miles or whatever the farm versus him driving it to Roanoke to shop or whatever?
Well, you see,
There's got to be
that,
some kind of determination there that, for
to
them
me, that goes
say-
back to defining what a farmer is, but,
Yep. Well, we're getting hung up on the silage truck here. And that silage truck is part of the farm operation. Unless you come up with some way to determine the silage truck from the new one-year-old dually that never goes near a farm, that's where the rub is. So, Gene, the answer to this mob that you're talking about coming in here, we either get this revenue that's been ignored for 40 years, or that same farmer that's worried about the silage truck looks at a tax increase on his real estate. And I think if you explain it to him that way, he would rather see everybody helping carry the load and pay those taxes, rather than see his land tax go up again. You got a motion on the floor.
Okay. Yeah, I got a motion on the floor to table this until the, what is our next? February 25th board meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I'll do a roll call vote. Gary?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes aye. Passes 5 with 2 absent. Has anybody got anything else they want to bring up?
Did you say this was the 25th?
It's Tuesday.
Tuesday meeting.
Coming up,
We got a visit to school.
Yeah,
Hey,
we can talk about it.
I've got one for Stephen, a question.
Now, were we asking,
The next step, essentially, what I understand is going on, is you're going to talk about this again at the next meeting. At the next meeting, you would vote to set a public hearing,
Yes.
Yeah.
if you want to try to pass the law.
Right.
And we still will have time within that
And then you would set it for
timeframe to have
the
it
first
set,
meeting in April or
won't we,
whatever.
Stephen? Set
So
it
will
with the
you
other one.
clean that up with the input you've had here today?
Yeah, yes, I will.
okay, I'd ask that, yeah, we also include, I mean, just as as an aside, as an addendum, you know, a copy of 46.2-665.
Yes.
Okay.
Before you adjourn, Stephen, I had a request from a taxpayer on that revocation of that easement down there above Max Meadows. Has a lawyer talked to you about that they think that's unreasonable, what the county's asking for that property?
Mr. Jones sent a letter indicating his calculations. I sent him back a letter indicating what we calculated from. He calculated it $7,500 per acre, which they're assessed at $7,500 per lot. I sent that back to him, and I've not heard back from him yet. I'll be glad to give you a copy of what I sent to him.
Well,
What have you assessed it at again?
They're assessed at 75.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
that,
the portion that.
the right of way.
that
The lots are assessed, the lots are 50 by 150, and they're assessed at 7,500 an acre. The right of way he's talking about getting is 40 by 150. It's 80% of the size of a lot. So what we sent him was 80% of what all those other lots of that same size are assessed at. So 80% of 7,500, which was 56, 5,800, whatever that figure is what we had done with that.
How do we go forward from here? Does that need Jones to come back to the board and tell us how ridiculous that is, and let's take an action on it?
Yeah, I mean, that's, if he could come back, that, I just had to send him based on what our policy is, and that's based on our policy. And he should come back and send a letter and state, well, and actually what I did, the one lot is actually assessed at 14,500. All the rest of them through there are assessed at 7,500. I took them all at 7,500 instead of going, because it would have been 80% of the 14,250. So I took it at what the rest of them were. But if he wants to proceed, he could write a letter to the board and indicate he does not agree with that assessment of
Okay.
how you would go forward.
So you have responded to it?
Yes.
Thank you.
We don't need to be in session for this kickoff meeting.
No, because I think it's Weldon Cooper's meeting, so
Yeah.
we can adjourn, I think.
Okay, does anybody else have any other business to bring from the board? If not, I'll adjourn this until February 25th.